everybody. Welcome to the Hallmarkies podcast. And we're really excited today because we are doing a little rom-com redemption of a Nicolas Cage film. We're talking about The Family Man, a movie that has been duplicated many times, but the original is still pretty sweet. And it's going to be fun to talk about. And I'm film critic Rachel Wagner, and Natasha's here.
Hello,
How's it
hi.
going?
Uh yeah, it's a good morning. I had like some custard pastry thing, so
Ooh,
that's always nice.
that's
Yeah.
good. Yeah, I mean, this probably will not air until December. So hopefully you'll be in the thick of the holidays, having a great Christmas season when this
Yeah.
airs.
There won't be any snow, but everything else should be great.
Right. Yeah, you
Yeah,
probably don't get a
yeah.
lot of snow in Singapore, I'm guessing.
No, it's just the same hot and humid and rainy. Now there's a
Uh-huh.
lot of rain. So that's all.
Okay.
That's the three things we get. Yeah. So
Have
there's
you
no snow.
ever have you ever seen snow? Have you ever traveled somewhere with snow or
I have seen snow. It wasn't like how it's like in the movies. I think I had like a really like romanticized idea of what
okay.
snow would be like. But I think real snow is actually kind of horrible. It's like icy and
Yeah.
hard and it's like, oh my God. So I think I was in Switzerland when I first like
Oh,
saw snow. Yeah. So like
it
on the
can
one of those
be.
mountains.
It can be.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then when it gets kind of dirty, it's kind of gray and
Yeah.
but if you ever
So
come out to
it's
Utah,
nice in the
we'll
movies.
we'll give you some good snow. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Is it
Well,
like
I
the
mean,
fluffy kind? Like
yeah, I
the,
mean, especially like in the mountains, like the ski resorts and stuff, like you get quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I mean, we advertise that we have the greatest snow on earth. That's Utah, Utah, the greatest snow on earth.
Wow. I did not
Yeah,
know that.
that's right. That's why we're
Oh,
getting the
okay.
Olympics again.
Oh
Yeah, yeah. Represent. I'm so excited.
yeah.
Well, you know what's interesting is that there are not as many like rotten holiday films as you'd think. And like a lot of the ones that are like there's no chance I'm redeeming that one. Like I it's a terrible movie, so there's no point in this process. But most of them have
Yeah.
pretty decent reviews, pretty decent. uh, but so what we decided, we already did the holiday. We already did that episode. You want to check it, y'all? If you're listening, you want to make sure to check out that episode. That was our first episode. But today we decided to talk about The Family Man, that came out in 2000, and it's an interesting one. It has, I think, a 51%. I think is what it's at for
Yeah, about the
Rotten Tomatoes, and it's a movie that there have been so many copycats. I'm 53%. Excuse me, 53%. Their Hallmark has made remade this movie a million times, but to varying degrees of success. And this was directed by Brett Radner. It's writer David Diamond and David Wiseman. It stars Nicolas Cage, Atea Leone, Don Cheadle. A fast lane investment broker offered the opportunity to see how the other half lives, wakes up to find that his sports car and girlfriend have become minivan and wife. And that's not as much of a horror movie as that summary makes it sound.
I think for some guys it would be straight up a nightmare.
Minivan and wife.
You're like, what?
Yeah. Well, so do you remember seeing this when it came out? Was it a favorite of yours?
I have not watched this film at all.
Oh, ever. You've never
Like,
seen it.
yeah. So I've never, it's the first time I've watched The Family Man. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah.
Well, I've seen it a number of times over the years, and I always enjoyed it. I thought it was sweet. But I do think, and we'll talk more about, I do think that it just the whole premise, it has like an inherent flaw that makes it harder to make the romance part of it work. I think it works better as a fable or family movie better than it really works as a rom-com, since it's rom-com redemption. There's a
Yeah.
that, but I do think it's still a sweet little film.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's more in the vein of like It's a Wonderful Life
Yeah.
kind of genre-esque where there is like romance, but I think ultimately it's like the overarching aspect is really about like what gives our lives like value. Like
Hmm.
it's a whole like, I think look and insight into that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the
Mm.
problem is that I'll just jump to the gun. Like the problem is that all of this isn't reality. It's just a glimpse, like what Don Cheadle's character says. It's just a glimpse. And so like all this building chemistry and this building thing, it's like not real. So like that forces them to like have this ending that's all kind of rushed and a little bit hard to believe and everything like that, because none of that was actually like real for the characters. And so I think that so there was a movie on Hallmark a couple of years ago called A Kiss Before Christmas. James Denton
Mhm.
and Terry Hatcher. It was really good. And they did, I think, a very smart update on this same idea. So you have in that case, he's the guy that always gets passed over at the office. He does
Mm.
his work and he never gets the flashy car, he never gets the promotions that he deserves, things like that. So he's making a wish one day, like, I wish I'd taken a different path, kind of similar. Well, what I think
Yeah,
was
okay.
smart about that movie is that in that movie, he has the family, the minivan, all that stuff, and then it gets taken away, and the alternate reality, the glimpse, is him getting the the sports car and the clock that talks to him and all that stuff, fancy house, and he realizes, oh my gosh, like I made the wrong choice, this is horrible. He misses his wife. And what was especially smart is they had his two kids be adopted, so when he goes over to the alternate life, he sees his kids with other parents because he
Oh,
wasn't there to
okay,
adopt
okay.
him, which
Yeah,
was so
yeah,
smart. That
yeah.
was brilliant. And so I think that is more satisfying because the end, he comes back to his family instead of just any like the ending. He's like, in the ending, they got nothing. He's got nothing, it's all gone. And so anyway, that's what I think is kind of the better take on this same idea.
Yeah. I think there's a Korean series as well called Familiar Wife
Oh.
where, yeah, it's really good. I think it's on Netflix as well. Which is basically this guy and he got married kind of young, and then one day he runs into like an ex-girlfriend that he almost married in college, and she's like successful, and she's got this like polished really great life, right? And then he kind of looks at his wife when he comes back, and he thinks like, I kind of wish that I made a different choice at this point. Yeah, because like the whole path curves because he helped his wife on a bus at that point when he was younger. So he like intervened on his wife's behalf. Like the wife was being harassed on the bus, and that's how they met, right? So he kind of like has a chance to like go back, and he decides not to intervene. And then like
Mm,
that's where you kind of see the different path like pan out. Yeah, but then
that
in
makes
the new
sense.
life, his wife, yeah, his wife appears as well, but uh she's like it's as if she's never met him before and all
Right.
that, yeah. So or it's a really like good, show about like marriage. I think, how we look at like life and
Huh.
like um the obligations that we have, and how we always like envy the other side where it seems, like that's the preferable life where you don't have like obligations, responsibilities, like all this baggage that you have to carry. Like it's like, the rich, materialistic life, right? That's what, is I want, right? Because that's like
Yeah.
easy and, yeah. So Yeah, I think it's similar in I think in the Terry Hatcher film, but it's
Mm.
a series. It's like a 16 episode
Oh,
like
interesting.
series. Yeah.
What's that called?
Yeah. Familiar Wife.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
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 Well, so overall, this Family Man, since your first time seeing it, what did you overall think about it? How do you feel?
I actually really liked it.
Mm-hmm.
Overall, I think I thought it was going to be like really saccharine because I think I went to like have a look at some of the reviews and then they, I think they said like it's kind of schmaltzy and saccharine. So I thought that it was going to be like really kind of sweetish, and very It's a Wonderful Life, I thought. Um but I thought it was actually really dark. And I
I
think
mean, let's remember
yeah.
that It's a Wonderful Life starts with suicide. So, like, it's
Yeah,
really
yeah.
not that saccharine.
That's true. That's
Don't
true.
forget
Like
that.
I think more of the ending. That's true. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
But yes.
but I think yeah, I think that I don't know, it made me reflect on I think like what I think has value in life. And I think I've had like, I think when we think about our lives, I think I've had
Mm-hmm.
like the same gripes and thoughts about how, I wish I had made different decisions. I wish
Mm-hmm.
that I had done this or done that, led me to a life, I think, which was more materialistic, I think, that because I think most of us perceive that as a life that's more valuable. So I thought
Yeah.
there was a very interesting discussion on like value, like,
Yeah.
yeah. And I thought Nick Cage and Tia Leone were quite good. I thought their
Mm-hmm.
performances were decent. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd agree. And what's interesting about this movie, or maybe I just noticed it more this watch, is that he's really not that much of a Grinch at the beginning. He's not like an
It's
Ebenezer
not,
Scrooge.
yeah.
Like he's pretty friendly to the doorman and like
Yeah.
he's like a pretty nice bad man of business.
Yeah. I think the only like bad thing I guess is like I think the whole point is that his life just revolved around money. Like even his interactions with the doorman was about money. Like he would ask the doorman like how much do you get? Like what's the count? Right? Like how much, like money do you
Mm-hmm.
get? Like what kind of gifts do you get? And then like, when he gives advice, it's also like related to money and
Mm-hmm.
business. Like his whole life is about
Yeah.
like making money and like that's the preoccupation. So I think that's what had to like change, I guess, in the glimpse
Yeah.
life.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I definitely can see that, but like he's really not that much of a jerk though. I mean, he's like trying to help the guy at the convenience store, like
Yeah. Yeah.
he's he he's not that much of like an Ebenezer Scrooge,
Yeah. I mean,
who like
there's not much to redeem, I would say, in a
yeah,
sense. Like he's
like
a normal,
it's just a
like for the
different
most part.
path. Like Scrooge doesn't
Yeah.
even care that like Cratchit's kid is gonna die and that like
Yeah.
decrease the surplus population and stuff like that. Like and and this guy is a lot nicer than that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I guess he gets the like that's what the angel says, right? Like some people say it's a demon, but like the Don Cheadle angel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ho, ho, ho. We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcast, especially at Christmas?
Do you enjoy the holiday previews, recaps, interviews, and bonus episodes?
If the answer is yes, please consider supporting the Hallmarkies Patreon. We need your help to do what we do both during the Christmas season and all year round.
But not only do you help a podcast led by strong, independent women by becoming a Patreon, you get to become a part of the Hallmarkies family.
Starting at only $2 a month as a patron, you will have access to our Facebook Patreon group where we talk about the movies, shows, and more all year.
We also have many monthly patron watch-alongs with guests like Lacey Chabert, Natalie Hall, Paul Campbell, Mary Lou Henner, and more, giving their behind-the-scenes details of their films.
As a patron, you also have the chance to provide input into the podcast and even join us at different tiers.
So this Christmas season, spread some cheer to the Hallmarkies Patreon and become a member today. You won't regret it.
Go to patreon.com/Hallmarkies to learn more.
That's patreon.com/hallmarkies.
So there's like the greedy executive that works with him who says the old flames are like old tax returns, put them in the file cabinet and cut them loose.
After 3 years, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
after 3 years. But I wrote down, I was like, he says Merry Christmas to the doorman. Scrooge would never do that.
He's definitely not a Scrooge character,
Yeah.
I would say. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So this Don Cheadle, this angel character, like, do you think he goes in there knowing that he's going to, like, do you think he has a plan to do this to Nicholas, to what's his name?
Jack Campbell.
Jack.
Yeah, Jack Campbell.
You think
yeah.
he goes in there knowing that that's the plan?
I think based on the ending, right? I don't know if you remember, like the ending where they're again in the convenience store and there's this girl buying something and she gives like $1 and then like has the clerk like he gives back the wrong change and then he's like waiting for her to do something but she doesn't, like she takes the extra money and she bounces. And then at that point he says, what test of character, right? You do all that just for $9. So I feel like that's his kind of job. Like he provides the temptation or he provides the test and then and he kind of sees how you react to it and then then you are rewarded or I guess punished based on how you react to the test. Because after she took the extra $9, he took out his notebook and he started to write, like he started to make a kind of note in it. Yeah. So I
he
think
says
that
you brought
he
this on
came
yourself.
Yeah. So I think that's what he does. He like provides tests or temptations, and then he sees how like humans react to it. Yeah. So
so it was kind of funny that I thought that Jack sleeps in his underwear, evidently. No pajamas.
I don't know why that felt like such a Nick Cage thing. I was like, dude, I think this was something he decided. Like he was like, no need for just me and my black undies. And the part where he was singing the opera as well, it felt so face off. I was like, dude, this is like me and my brother were like, this is Castor Troy. It's not Jack Campbell. Yeah, so there's some parts in the film where there's a lot of like cageisms. I feel like it's like Nick Cage, Yeah. That part gave me a laugh.
This was when Nicolas Cage was still kind of charming in his cageisms and where kind of before it got sort of old, it's like he got more and more desperate as the decade continued.
I think because he started to do like so many like of those like really not great films, right? He just took whatever film he could get. Yeah.
I think he had some kind of tax bill or something like that.
He had like there's money problems. Yeah.
It was bad. But he wakes up next to Taylor Leone. He's freaking out. Christmas morning. And it's pretty funny. I think they do a good job of like the freak out.
He just like bounces because it's just like bye.
Yeah. Although when he's driving into the city and you see the Twin Towers, that kind of broke my heart. This would have been one of the last movies. I mean, so this was released in 2000, but you got to figure there weren't that many movies set in New York City. I'm sure a handful before that happened.
Before,
here. So I saw it. I'm like, oh, makes me sad. But, yeah.
I was watching it with my brother, and he was the one who he was like, oh my God, like the Twin Towers it's still up, and then we were both like kind of taken aback by it because now like in it's probably one like you're right. I think it was one of the few I think last movies that you can kind of see that shot of it.
Yeah, let's see. When was it released? It was released December 22nd, 2000. So then there would have been 9 months of whatever movies in that, before it all happened.
New York. Yeah.
Oh, so sad. But yeah, this whole section of him, and then Don Cheadle, he picks him up and he's like, "You're getting a glimpse," and I think it's an interesting idea of getting like a glimpse of sort of there's the whole many worlds theory in physics. Don't ask me to elaborate on that, but there's the whole many worlds theory, and so the idea that like, what would happen if you took like a different path, if there's these other versions of you kind of going around. Oh, what's that? That I think that's kind of an interesting concept.
Yeah, like how different decisions create different forks and different paths. Yeah.
I think you can like you can go on such a like you can totally you can go on such a mind bender with this, but like I ended up getting into BYU, was the college I went to, and my sister was 2 years younger than me, and she decided, because she was homeschooled, she decided to come out to college with me because we were really close, even though she was 2 years younger. So she started college at 16. Well, she started college at 16, and that semester, the first semester, she met who would then become her husband. And
oh,
yeah. So you think about it, like if I hadn't gotten in, then she wouldn't have even gone. And then she certainly wouldn't have gone at 16 if I hadn't gotten in. And she so it is kind of interesting to sort of play that game.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
I think everybody has some stuff like that, that you think, if I just made one different choice, or if one thing hadn't turned out that way, then like life would have been quite different.
Yeah. 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 And then like you have to tell yourself, don't think about that.
It kind of makes you crazy if you do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then you have the one kid. He has two kids in this alternate life, and the daughter immediately realizes it's not him. And he says,
which is interesting. Yeah.
He says the aliens did a good job with Dad. Which is cute.
Yeah. It was interesting. I don't know. Like it kind of felt like, like there was like he's just a placeholder. Like there is like a version of himself that's been living this life. I don't know, like the way the daughter kind of realized that, he's not him was very interesting. I don't know. It gave this sense that, like this life is being led in some way, and he's just like, come in at this point. It's just yeah, it was a weird. I didn't know how to like read that whole aspect,
Yeah. I like when he says, I like kids on a case-by-case basis. That was funny. I agree.
Oh, when he drops off his son at like the daycare or something, he's like, do I get a receipt or something? And that was hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh my God, yeah.
Well, it's the thing is that like you get into kind of habits when you're around, not even just kids in general, but just like specific kids, and you get used to the way that they talk and their daily routine and just stuff like that. And when you're sort of thrown in there, it's quite panicky.
Yeah. Like all his like first moments, changing the diaper, getting the kids like ready, like it's journey.
Yeah. So he was good, and I do think Nicolas Cage was very endearing. He was very sweet.
Yeah. You could really like relate to him, which I think helps because he's not like a Scrooge character.
Yeah. And he says you've really grown into a beautiful woman. You were always pretty, but so he's like sees her in a whole new light, which is sweet.
Yeah, the way he delivered those lines, right? Whenever he like, I think compliments his wife, it's dripping with like sincerity. Like he's able to do that, I feel like, as an actor. Like, I think however cheesy or corny the line is, he kind of makes it sound sincere. Like, I think even in like City of Angels, like, I mean, it's a cheesy, like, yeah, it's
Or like it
unbearably
could
so
happen
at
to
times,
you.
but yeah, and
Yeah,
he's able to like make it work. He makes you believe that this character is really like sincere
it's
in
true.
his delivery. Yeah. So
It's
that's
true.
like one of his, strengths, I feel, as an actor.
Yeah. So he goes bowling, and they seem to be somewhat. I didn't understand why they seemed kind of annoyed that he got a strike. You know what I
He
mean? Like the other
didn't. He
players.
didn't. He didn't. He did so badly.
Well, he got
He didn't even get the spare. It was so bad.
well, he got that one strike. The one.
No, he didn't. He didn't. He didn't knock down all the ball. I mean, all the pins. It
He
was like
didn't.
there
I
was a
thought he got
handful
the
left.
one, and he was like,
Yeah,
"Yeah," and he was excited.
he thought that he did well, but he didn't.
I guess.
So that was,
Um,
yeah, yeah,
and there was that. There was the woman there.
yeah,
And he's kind of like trying to figure out if this version of him was having an affair.
yeah, yeah. Because she's quite overt, I
Yeah.
felt. hmm hmm
But he wasn't. So he was a good guy in this alternate reality.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he says to his wife, she says, "You make me hot." And she's very offended by that.
Yeah.
I mean, you're the married woman in this. Do you think that that's I don't feel like I would be offended, but I don't know.
I wouldn't be either, but I guess she's the more sentimental. Like, I guess some women, I think, don't like, I think, that once they feel like they've been wifed out, there's this sense that it has to be the language, I guess, or the bedroom talk needs to be a certain way. Like, they can get kind of offended, I think, if it's too objectifying. I don't know.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah. So I think, I mean, I'm fine.
Yeah, me too. I would be too.
I wouldn't do the messy cake eating because, like, no.
Oh
I
yeah,
hate the
they
dirty,
make
like,
out
the house and all that.
on the
Yeah, that's
staircase with the cake.
nah, not for me.
I agree. I agree.
I like my cake on a plate. Like,
I agree.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and I especially agree at the wedding when people smash cake. I hate that.
Yeah. Oh my
No,
God,
don't do
no. Like,
that.
I will be so angry. Like, yeah, sometimes you see those videos, right? And then the groom like just
Uh,
smashes the cake in the bride's face. I would be
oh.
like, divorce. Like, no. I'll be
Like
really pissed, man. Like, yeah.
I would be too. Like if the listeners, if you did that at your wedding, like God bless you. But like at the very least, hopefully you had an agreement about it ahead of time.
Yeah.
At the
Like, they're
very
both
least.
in on it, like both have to consent to
Yeah.
cake on the face.
Yeah. We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the new Gift Wrapped Romance Sweet Clean series, available now wherever you purchase books. Looking for some cheerful escapism this holiday season? Snuggle up with a cup of hot cocoa and lose yourself in 5 festive tales of romance with the new book series, Gift Wrapped Romance. These 5 funny and feel-good books have all the jolly hallmarks of perfect holiday reading. Twinkling lights, mistletoe kisses, and plenty of Christmas cheer. Swoon over your new book boyfriends as they find love in the most magical season of all. Find the books wherever you do your book shopping this holiday season, or use the affiliate link in the description below. And he forgets their anniversary. So, I mean, he didn't know in his defense. He didn't know it was their anniversary. But then he takes her to dinner and they dance, which was really sweet because it's just like a regular restaurant. It's not even like a dance place.
Yeah, and then I think those elements of him that exist in this reality are also like part of him. Like I think he is
Yeah.
kind of a romantic guy, and he knows how to like, court a woman, right? So I think all the things that she loves about, this alternate version of him is still him.
Mhm.
And I think he's just been avoiding for some reason romantic entanglements. Like he's not been in like a serious relationship since her, right? Since college.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I do feel like in reality, obviously, again, this is a fable, but in reality, there probably should have been some kind of midway thing. I mean, you can have a perfectly happy, stable family in the city, despite what Hallmark might
Yeah.
lead you to believe. You can have a very happy, healthy family in the city and also have, work and have other things. Like you do not have to live suburban bliss in order to have a happy life. And so in
Yeah.
reality, like some compromise would probably be actually
Yeah.
actually ideal.
Yeah, but I think that she does try to do that at that point when he gets the job. Like there is, and they do talk about it. Like I was also, I think when I was watching it, I was telling my brother, like, it doesn't have to be all or nothing, right? Like it doesn't have to be like I can only do it this way,
Yeah.
or if I or this way, right?
Yeah.
So some element of compromise is possible, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in some ways, I think also like having a city family, I've just seen from some of my friends, it really forces you to simplify, because you just don't have that much space. You don't have that much stuff. Like and so in like every way you live, like you can find happiness, and it's just about finding the right spot, for you and your family.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know.
But I guess because I guess over there they have a community, that the spaces
Mhm.
that the kids love and they are used to, right? Like I think changes
Yeah.
it can sometimes be good but also sometimes be bad. So I think like for her it's like why do you want to shake up our lives, right? But
Yeah.
she's after that she does say that if that's what it takes, I will do it,
It's
yeah.
definitely though painted as this very idyllic kind of like suburban bliss. It's kind of a like this is the best way to live, as opposed to the big city life, lonely life, kind of a thing.
Yeah,
But yeah,
yeah,
so he wants to get this $2,000 suit, and she's like, "What is going on?" And then for his anniversary gift, she gives him like a thrift store version knockoff of
yeah,
that suit, which was cute.
yeah. Yeah. I found it hilarious that he got so like offended because the daughter got new shoes and he's like, she got like so she what about her? She got new shoes. And his wife is like, that's $25. Like he was just like, why can't I get something new? Like it was
Yeah.
it was kind of funny. Yeah.
Like what would be your splurge? Like what like would you get like do you care about like fancy like if you were given, let's say, $1,000 and you had to spend it on a luxury item. So like
Yeah.
clothes or food or something like that. Like what would be your splurge? What do you think you'd do?
Jewelry.
Jewelry, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I think like every like holiday, like once I'm done with the school term, I go to like my favorite jewelry store and I like get something.
Oh, I love
Like
that. That's cute.
so it's only like when I'm done with work, it's like a little treat to myself. So when like the salespeople see me coming, they're like, "Oh, okay, she's back." Like they start sending me like they actually text me about like new things that come in the store because I'm like a frequent customer. I guess.
That's really
Yeah,
funny.
but
I had
that's
no idea you were so
yeah, I
cute.
love
I
I
love
love
that.
I love jewelry. Yeah.
Um, I I do think I would get nice shoes. And that might be my splurge because
Oh,
like as opposed to like most other clothes, I could really like especially like
yeah.
especially when you're dealing with like designer clothes, like it's the sticker shock
Yeah.
is just so insane. I don't know if I could ever justify like spending $1,000 on a shirt. Like I just don't think I could
Yeah.
ever. Like we talked about that all the time in our when me and Jax covered Sex and the City, of course. And there's that whole plot line when she insists upon getting Burger the shirt,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
I
The
can't remember,
Valentino
Versace or something like that.
Prada?
Yeah. And
Yeah. Yeah.
it's I think it's $4,000 for a button-down shirt. I mean, I just don't think I could ever wrap my brain around that. But like
Yeah.
a pair of shoes with like that to me is like markedly better. I don't,
Yes.
like the more money you spend on shoes, the more comfortable they are. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I mean, there's obviously ridiculous also in Sex and the City, all the shoes and the crazy prices, but I don't know. Just I do think shoes would be up there for me. I mean, I think I would love to get like regular massages. I would also love to get. I mean, I would probably splurge on food. I don't
Yeah,
really
like a
care about like
nice,
fancy food because like but
yeah.
like certain ingredients, are more expensive and like I don't know, like getting Honeycrisp apples on a daily basis and things like that are so expensive. Or
Oh
like
my God, this
steak.
reminds me. Oh
I
yeah,
love
yeah, good
steak.
steak. Yeah. The restaurant scene in The Family Man. And then I think he was like ordering all the food, right? And he like knew
Yeah.
what he wanted. And then he
Yeah.
said like I'll get like this $800
Scallops.
bottle of, and then the $800 bottle of wine. And she's like, that's too expensive. And he's like, okay, just give me like a glass
A
of red
glass.
wine,
Yeah.
right? And then my brother started laughing because we had this whole thing at an Italian restaurant where we were like looking at the wine prices, and we were like, can we try the wine? Because we don't want to get like a expensive
Yeah.
bottle, and
Yeah.
then it's like not nice, right? And you're forced to like finish it. So we're like, is it possible to like try the wine? And they looked at us like we are like insane. Oh, we felt like such peasants. Oh my God. Like, obviously, we don't do this often, and like we're seeing that whole scene, we just had a good laugh because it
Yeah.
reminded us of of that moment. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that the thing that would be the nicest is just like to have to just have like the freedom to like not worry about things as much, to not always be kind of like that would be the biggest blessing of like being
Yeah.
comfortably wealthy, is to just I don't know, just to not have to be constantly kind of worrying about it.
Yeah, to like spend money and not be guilty,
Yeah.
or not think about like, if I spend this money, will it like come back to bite me in some way?
Yeah.
Especially for like, I think things that you can't quite justify, like, sometimes things that you want for yourself, but you don't actually need them
Yeah.
technically, yeah,
Yeah, like
yeah,
there's an episode of The Middle that's really good about this where she ends up buying this like thing of expensive hand cream, this hand cream, and then she ends up causing all this conflict. And it's not that Mike, her husband, is upset with her for buying the hand cream. He's just upset that like that they're in a position where he has to be worried about that. He's like, how can we be in a position where you can't buy
yeah,
the hand cream that you want, and like, and
yeah,
anyway, it's a good episode, but yeah, just to take away that worry, I think would be the biggest blessing. I also, as a podcaster, I would hire a full-time editor. That's like my like I'm so
yeah,
grateful for every
dream.
I'm so grateful for every patron that we have, and everybody should check out the Patreon because it's really fun. But like my dream would be at least like a part-time editor, because uh because that's the biggest drag, is doing all the editing.
Yeah, it's exhausting, right? I mean, like,
Yeah, It's a lot.
Yeah. No matter how good an episode goes, you gotta edit it in some
Yeah.
way. You gotta do your thumbnails.
Yeah.
Yeah, all those things. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to edit and you know, you work on the sound, you work on the, you know, things happen, and it takes a while. And I'm not as fastidious as some people are. There are some people who take out every you know thing, and I could not produce the amount of content that I do if I was that careful. There's no way. But
Yeah.
but having
Yeah.
a full-time editor is like my dream.
Oh,
Yeah, someday.
okay.
But
Yeah,
then
yeah,
check out the Patreon, you guys. It's awesome.
yeah.
So then we have he says, I used to be so sure of everything. I had it all figured out. No doubts, no regrets. And so, you know, that's kind of an interesting thing, is that, like, that's the thing at the beginning of the movie, he's not like really in a low place. He's not really sad. He thinks he has it all figured
Yeah.
out.
Yeah. Yeah. When I think he says, I have everything I need, right? And then the
Yeah.
angel is like, yeah, you're about to see.
Yeah. And then he says, all this time, I never stopped loving you.
Yeah.
So that's very sweet. Very
Yeah.
sweet. And then he says, why don't we move to the city and we can finally have a life people envy? And she says, people already envy us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I think is so like apparent, I think, throughout the film.
Yeah. It's like I said,
With
it's very suburban
friends.
bliss, that this is like the ideal life.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really true. But I think I also kind of like that he doesn't sleep with her the first time she initiates.
Yeah.
Like, I think there's something about him that realizes that it would be kind of scummy of him to do that,
Yeah.
because he doesn't like feel what she feels.
Right.
Yeah, so that was like, I think, a good moment.
I
Mhm.
agree. And then he says to the angel, he says, you can't send me back. And he says, a glimpse isn't a permanent thing. And he says, I choose us. I choose. And then he wakes up in his fancy apartment, and the woman is there. And he's like, what are you doing?
I was like, this poor woman who's just paid
Yeah.
to like
It's a
like
tough
wear
Christmas
sexy
for her.
lingerie.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies.
Yeah. And so he goes to try to
Yes,
find her. He's not at the house. She's not at the house. And he ends up finding her, and she's moving to Paris the next day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Moving to Paris. And she has like a box of his stuff still. She gives him the box. And so it's got like some booze in it. It's got like some things. Oh no. And then classic run to the airport scene that they do say, like, you can't park here, but aside from that, like, the whole, that's very pre 9/11, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And so then he tells her about their life. I've seen what we can be together. I choose us. So she does choose to stay. And so there we go. But I do think that's the weakness of the movie. It's just that, like, they paint themselves into a corner they can't really get out of because it's all an illusion. So this is like the best ending that they can come up with as far as the
Yeah.
romantic side of it. But they don't even get
Yeah.
a kiss at the end because that would be super weird if she kissed him there.
Yeah. Yeah. Because they just like reconnected. Yeah, you're right.
So,
Yeah.
but
But I yeah, but I do feel like the airport thing, if you were just I found it so funny that no one cared. If you look at the airport people, they were all like, God, this mad dude, like just shut up.
yeah, it's
Like
true.
no one was like, wow, this is romantic. Like everyone's just like, I'm trying to get on my flight, like just get out. Like it's hilarious. Like, some people are just like walking and they're just like, oh God, like this guy is just mad. I don't know, but some of the things that he was saying sound so crazy. I don't know if I would like receive it well. Has a ex-girlfriend that he hasn't seen for like 13 years.
Yeah, I mean,
I'll be
it's
like,
like I said, I think it's about as good as you could do. They paint themselves into this corner, but I don't believe for a second that she would actually do that. But what else are you gonna do? I mean, you're gonna have a
yeah,
bittersweet ending. That doesn't make sense. So I don't know.
yeah.
It's a tricky thing. The only
I
other
think
way
I
I could
was
see
reading.
doing it is if he does the race to the airport and then they have some kind of or even just the moving in and then they have some kind of epilogue like a year later or something like that.
Yeah,
You
but
know.
that wouldn't be great as well. Yeah. Um, some people I was like on Reddit and reading about what people thought about the film, and some people felt that, maybe it was possible that she also had been given a glimpse, and maybe that's why she
Oh.
like reached out to him. That would have been interesting, right? Like why did she could just chuck the stuff, right? Like I don't know, like it's been so long, like why do you like reach out,
Mm,
So like that's kind of interesting.
I can
Then
see that.
this guy had this like theory about the snow. So like the intense snowfall, right? Like apparently it happens like only 3 times in the film, and every time it happens, like Nick Cage changes lives. So like he said at the end of the film, like there's an intense snowfall, and that's an indicator that perhaps because like they made this choice that they're transported back to their old life.
Oh,
But yeah.
that's deep. That's
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
like we should have had him on the podcast. That's
Yeah, yeah.
good.
I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. I mean,
Yeah.
I thought it was a cool way to look at it. Yeah, but I think
Hmm.
it's a way for him to kind of feel good about the movie, because I think otherwise we are thinking about like the two children who never got to be, right? Who never got to
Right.
exist, and I mean they're older now. It's not to say that they can't have children, but it wouldn't be the same children, I would think. It'd be different.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
guess I
I
just
don't
kind of
know.
assumed that they would still have the same children,
Children.
but yeah, that would be pretty panicky if like they start trying to have kids and then they can't have kids and you'd be like
Yeah, right. Yeah. I mean, they are older now, it's a reality.
yeah,
So I don't know.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, because yeah, it's 13 years. They start out in college. You figure they're like 34, 35. So there's still time,
Yeah.
um but okay, so I asked on Twitter, I said, what do you think of The Family Man? And Damien Steele says, I haven't seen it for years, but there's a couple of scenes in it that are weirdly haunting. Darren from Nostalgia Cassie
Yeah.
says, I like it quite a bit. It's a wonderful life of the 2000s. The Girly Nerd, she says, I quite like it. Very sweet film and one of my favorites of Cage's. SJH Canada says, I liked the original Lacey Chabert version better. So that's not the original. The Lacey Chabert version from like 2015 or whatever is like fun enough, except for the kids are like really bratty. They're like very high maintenance in there. They're like making her go through their cereal and pick out I can't remember if it was the marshmallows or whatever. Like they're a lot. So it's kind of like, uh, but Josh, he says, I like it. I remember critics saying that the movie does too good a job making Cage's rich life look better than his family life. But I think that's the point. He would still choose the one over the other. And that scene of him watching the home video is incredible. So
Yeah.
yeah, he watches.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Lasse Voigt, he says, I liked it and it spawned a wonderful meme. You want this cake? I want it. Cake. Okay. And Bamboos is a great Christmas movie. And as far as the Rotten Tomatoes, most of the negative reviews are in the schmaltzy, sentimental, fluffy,
Yeah.
sugary pro-family message. I'm not sure why that's a problem. Then like this is so crazy to me. As someone says that there's not a lot wrong with The Family Man except for an almost total lack of surprise. And I'm just like, what on earth? Why would you expect surprise? Not every movie has to be surprising.
But I don't think it's predictable though. Like I don't think that I wouldn't have, I didn't see like how it was gonna end. Like I expected some kind of reunion, but I didn't know how they were gonna like steer it,
I mean,
in
I'd
terms of like the two
agree.
lives.
And it just seems like that's a crazy expectation to want every movie to be like, "Whoa, I'm so surprised." Like, what? And then someone else says, I was disappointed with its overly sentimental tone and rather questionable message. Are married men with children actually more deserving of happiness than single guys? According to this movie, yes. Now, so first of all, like, complaining about an overly sentimental tone in a movie like this just seems insane to me. Like,
yeah,
I mean,
like,
do you
that's
really
the
want
point,
gritty
I guess.
realism
Yeah.
in your holiday fable? Like, it's crazy to me. But secondly, I mean, that's why I feel like he's not a Scrooge at the beginning. Like, he is like reasonably happy. He just gets a
Yeah.
glimpse of another life that he could
Yeah.
live.
Yeah, precisely. I mean, at the end, he does end up with a kind of compromise, right, of both
Yeah.
the lives. Like he perhaps gets the girl, but he's still living that same life, right, with that job and everything. Yeah, I don't think it's trying to critique single men or single. I think it's just about what you value. I think family, love, or
Yeah, and he
yeah,
was pretty lonely in the rich life.
yeah,
So if
yeah,
anything, it's sort of
yeah.
not a critique on necessarily being single, but like being alone, you know?
Yeah, yeah, because he does want to connect with that girl, right? That he spends the night with. Because he's like, "What are you doing on Christmas?" And then she's like, "Oh, but I'm going to spend time with my family," and he doesn't
Yeah,
have that.
that's right.
So I thought
Yeah.
that it was really like the fact that he is a lonely man. It's just that he surrounded himself with so much things to kind of like, ignore that fact.
Yeah. And then we have here another person saying, perhaps The Family Man would be more palatable if it played up on or even acknowledged its female revenge fantasy aspects. What? What the heck? What is that? What? I don't understand. Like, I mean,
So like basically his life is shit because he turned her down. Is
I
that what it means?
guess. And then she shows like, oh, that she's like beautiful and has a I don't know. I feel like he's like pretty happy before and he's pretty happy after. And like, I don't know. I just don't
Yeah.
see this like shaming aspect.
Yeah.
That
And she herself, right? She never held it against him. She moved on with life as well, right? She was just like,
yeah.
okay, yeah, it happened, that happened, and that's it.
Yeah. And another person that says the Family Man
Bizarre.
is meant to have a very positive message, but it's a message that is troubling too. I just don't see anything that's really troubling in this. Exists only to provide middle class, middle brow entertainment.
Oh,
Oh my
wow.
gosh.
Yeah.
Let's see. I'm gonna read a couple other ones.
Damn, that is so classist, man.
Yeah, I mean, I don't
That
know. I just
review, man, damn.
have these people never had a fairy tale. They never had like high on schmaltz and low on real feeling. Ratner's film is a hollow happening that in more intelligent hands may have achieved the kind of complexity it strives for. I mean, I'd like these people to watch a Frank Capra movie. I'm sure that, you know, if it came out now instead of in the 40s, then they'd be all like, oh,
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
I
Mhm,
think it
mhm.
is very sweet and sentimental. I do think the ending is a little bit underwhelming just because of the, like I said, they wrote themselves into a corner. And in that Kiss Before Christmas, I think fixed that and did it the right way. But I still overall appreciate the performances and I think the overall positive message. And it's very Christmassy and very sweet. And so, yeah, I would definitely recommend it. Probably adding
Yeah,
my positive
yeah.
score.
Yeah, I don't think that it's trying to advocate for one life over the other. I think
No.
it's just a film that is trying to kind of get you to think about what actually brings value to your life. Like I think so
Yeah.
much of society is built around like the hustle and bustle culture. It's a capitalist dream, right? When we think of
Yeah.
success and what, you know, what is value, we think about like money and comfortable lives, you know, with wealth and things like that. And I think there's nothing wrong with that, but ultimately you got to ask yourself is if that is really what brings your life value, like does that give you what it needs to give you?
Yeah.
So I think that's what it's asking you to kind of think about. And I also like the fact, I think that it's also about like second chances. Like I think the idea is that you can walk away from certain things, but there's also the chance that you can kind of go back to them. Like, you know, like
Yeah. That's
in that
true.
point, you know, in that life, right, he made a decision to walk away from the life that he could have had with her, right? But he also gets to kind of like pursue it again, right? So I think that kind of is a very interesting look on life. I think like sometimes we think about things that have passed us by and we think that, you know, it's beyond us, we can't achieve it anymore. But, you know, who says you can't kind of have a second chance at it, you know? So
Yeah.
I think there's a very like it's a really complex way, I think, of looking at life. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Well, very good. Let us know what you think of The Family Man. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you have any suggestions for rom-com redemption that you'd like us to do in the future, just let us know. We'd love to hear in the comments section. And Natasha, where can people follow you?
They can, so I have a new site. It's called the Fiction Department. Basically we do like opinion pieces, articles on film, TV, and books. It's merely fictional. So I don't do like documentaries or any of the real hard hitting stuff that I guess these people were looking for in the family man.
Right.
Yeah, but we're
It's a
serious
great
about
title.
fiction and yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Great.
So yeah, so you can find me at my writing at the fiction department or I tweet sometimes about stuff at Lit My Soul on
Great.
X. Yeah.
And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. And and to make sure you're following the podcast, the Hallmarkies Pod, Hallmarkies Podcast, all over social media. And if you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. That really, really helps us a lot. Those 5-star reviews on iTunes really, really helps us. And if you are watching YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Most of our viewers on YouTube are not subscribers. So if you're in that camp, please subscribe. It really helps us a lot. And we have the Patreon group, which is the best way you can support us. You can be part of watch alongs. We have really fun ones planned for the rest of this year. And then going on to next year and all kinds of other perks and exclusive videos, things like that. So please, please take a look at that. And we have the merch store where we have a bunch of fun new holiday designs, movie themed. We've got It's a Wonderful Life. We've got Christmas Story. We've got Die Hard. We've got it all. So make sure you check it out. And thanks so much. And we'll talk to you later. Merry Christmas.
Bye.